Welcome back to Pre-Calc Notes 1.2, part 2 of the video. First topic we're going to talk about in this video is talking about the equation for a circle. There's the equation for the circle. You've got some variables that you need to know. When you're writing the equation, the only numbers that you actually fill in are h, k, and r. So those are the things that you always need to know to write the equation. So you need h, k, and r. So you'll notice that hk, the way that I wrote it here, is the center of the circle, r being the radius, and then xy is just a point that is on the circle. So if I ask you to find the standard form of the circle with the endpoints of the diameter here at -1 and +4, 1, what you're going to have to do is, first of all, you need to find the radius. And if the diameter is the distance between these 2 points, then the radius is half of that. And then the center would be the midpoint between these 2 points. So you're going to have to use the midpoint and the distance formulas to get the center and the radius. So let's first start off by finding the center. So if we find the center first, we're going to use the midpoint formula. So the center would be, take the x values, add them together, and divide by 2. Take the y values, add them together, and divide by 2. So I'm going to get 0 over 2, which is 0, and I'm going to get 0 over 2, which is also 0 again. So I find that my center for this problem is 0, 0. Now what I know, if I think about this, here's 0, 0, here's 4, 1, and here's 4, -1. This was the diameter. The circle is going all the way around. That's somewhat what I'm trying to graph. That's just a rough graph. That's not exact by any means. So I need to find the equation for the circle. So the center is at 0, 0. If I want to know the radius is going to be the distance from here to here. Well, think about these points. This point was 0, 0, and this point was 4, 1. If I choose, I could find the radius the other way. I could say, well, the radius would be the distance from the center to here. I could choose to find that way as well. But since I already wrote down these coordinate points, I'm going to use those. So I use the distance formula to find the radius. So if I'm going to find the radius, I'm going to say that the radius is equal to the square root of, take the x values and add them together. I'm sorry, I'm not going to add them together. I'm going to actually subtract. So let me start that over again. Take the x values and subtract them from each other. Square that. Add to that the y values, 0 and 1, subtracted from each other and squared. So this is going to give me 4 squared, which is 16. That's going to give me -4 squared, but that's still 16. -1 squared would be 1. And that's still underneath the square root sign. So I end up getting r to be the square root of 17. So again, the two things I needed was the center and the radius. Now just plug it into your equation. X minus 0, because h is 0, squared, plus y minus 0, because k is also 0, equals square root of 17 squared. And well, if we simplify this a little bit, x minus 0 squared is just x squared. Y minus, and I forgot to put the squared there, y minus 0 squared is just y squared. And the square root of 17 squared is 17. So the equation for my circle that I drew here would be x squared plus y squared equals 17. When you do these problems, I really recommend that you take the time to write down the things that you need. This case being the fact that you needed a center and a radius, because those are the only numbers that you're actually going to fill into the formula. So your equation is not going to have actual values in for the y and for the x. You're going to use the variables x and y. Taking a look at the next example, it says, here's the equation for a circle. I want you to graph it and then tell me what the center, the hk, is, and also what the radius is. So the generic form of my equation, without any numbers in it, would be this. So you can see I kind of wrote this above this. So by writing it above it so that it lines up, I can find that my h value is 0, and my k value is a +1. Here's where you're going to make your mistake. Notice that there's a minus here, but in the generic form of the formula there's a minus also. So this is actually a positive 1 when I put it in there. So h and k are always going to be the opposite. So I'm going to write hk and then just write the word opposite next to that. So if I see a positive number here, if this was a plus 1, then down here it'd be negative 1. If I saw a negative 5, down here it'd be a positive 5. Okay, so now the next thing is to find the r value. Well, here's what I know. I know that r squared is equal to 1, so r would have to be also 1 in this case. So let's take the time to plot this. So let's first plot the point 0, 1. And then from here I need to have a radius of 1. So I go over horizontal a distance of 1, and back a distance of 1, up a distance of 1, and down a distance of 1. That's the easiest way to find my circle, is to, from the center, go up and down your radius, go right and left your radius, and then just connect those 4 dots to make your circle. And my graph would look like that then.